if I wanted to, and use the content market. So lots of different ways for me to go and grab content, but I want to create an assessment for my students. So I'm going to click on create, and I want to build an assignment. So when I click on build an assignment, this now gives me the opportunity to actually build an assignment. So I need to give the assignment a name. So this is going to be Rising Oceans assignment. And this is going to be a problem-based learning assignment. So I'm going to use the problem-based learning pedagogy here. And the first thing that I need to do is tell my students what to do. So again, wherever I see the plus is where I can add some content. Now, one of the nice things about Learn Ultra is even though I'm building an assignment, I've still got the option of using questions. So I could ask a couple of true and false questions. I could ask some fill in the blank questions, or I could do a multiple choice question before actually getting them to submit something. So the fact that I can use tests and assignments at the same time in the same tool saves me a lot of time. But in this instance, I just want to add some text. And what I want to ask the students to do is this. So there is a problem with rising sea oceans across the world. And I want them to use the problem-based learning approach in groups to kind of think about what the problem appears to be, what their top 4 ideas are on how to tackle the issue. As a group, they've got to select their number 1 idea, and then they've got to refine that idea into a workable, cost-effective aid to help with actually solving that problem. Now, it's quite a big problem. I'm not expecting my students to go and fix the rising sea levels across the world, but I certainly want them to brainstorm about it and come up with some ideas. So that is what I want my students to go and do. Now, off to the right-hand side is where I actually set up my assessment options. So the first thing I need to do is give them a due date. So there's quite a lot going on in September and October. We saw that from the calendar. So I'm actually going to push this out to the first week in November. So that's when I'm expecting a due date. And I could switch this to 9 o'clock in the morning. So that's when I'm expecting a submission. Now, I'd like to allow a class conversation against this, and I'll come back to why I've done that in just a moment. So I'm going to allow a class conversation. Now, this is a group assignment, so I'm going to leave the category as assignment. I'm going to allow them 1 attempt, and I'm going to mark this using a percentage. So obviously it's out of 100 points, so that's fine. Now, scrolling down, I can set up things like access codes. So I could actually ask the student to do a treasure hunt around the course, and at the end of the treasure hunt, they get a code to access this assessment. So it's a bit like gamification I can build into this. I can put a time limit on this, so I can put the student under some pressure. So once they've opened this assessment in their groups, they're going to have a little bit of pressure to make a submission quite quickly. I can attach a marking rubric, so I could use my basic marking rubric on this assessment, and it just means that they've got a structure to work within to actually build the work out. Now, I did say I wanted this to be a group assignment, so I'm going to assign groups to this. So if I click on assign to groups, now within here, there's a couple of things that I can do. I can randomly assign my students into group. I can build the groups here, and I can ask my students to self-enroll into groups. But what I would really like to do is I would like to reuse groups that I've used before. So I'm going to use my Rising Oceans PBL groups, and I've got a blue, green, orange, red and yellow groups. All my students are already assigned. So I'm just going to save that. There we go. So I've now got 5 groups, and they're all pre-specified. And we're going to turn on Blackboard Safe Assign so that we can check for originality. There we go. And I'm going to save that. And the last thing I need to do is make that visible to my students. So there we go. That is now visible to my students. Now, because I enabled the class conversation, I'm actually able to click on the conversation button, and not only will my students have a conversation space, but they will all have a group conversation space as well. I'm asking them to work in groups, so I'm automatically giving them space to work in their groups as part of the conversation. Okay. So that is how you would build an assessment. So you can see how easy it is to build an assessment on Blackboard Learn Ultra, and this is one of the key reasons why I like using it as an academic member of staff. Okay, So I'm conscious I've only got 5 or 6 minutes left. So there's a couple of other things that I wanted to point out to you. Now, down the left-hand side of this course, we've got some really useful tools. So we've got things like the class register. I can see who is registered to take this class. So it's really quite good that I can keep a track on which students and which instructors are enrolled into this particular course. I'm also able to launch into Blackboard Collaborate. So one of the pedagogical requirements that you might have for this particular course is that it could be delivered face-to-face, it could be delivered fully online, it could be delivered hybrid or blended. So Blackboard Collaborate is automatically integrated to help you move between asynchronous into synchronous and back again. So I can very quickly join the Collaborate room just here. Collaborate will open up and we will actually see my students now within Blackboard Collaborate, which is really quite nice. Now, if I just switch this onto the gallery view, we'll see my students switch on their cameras and they'll all start to appear on the screen. So with Blackboard Collaborate, I can open up my microphone, I can open up my webcam, and I can actually start conversing with my students, which is really nice when we need to discuss a particular topic or I need to deliver some education out to them remotely. So now within Blackboard Collaborate, this can all be recorded. So I'm able to start the recording from here and everybody will be told the session is being recorded. Now off to the right-hand side, I can open up the Collaborate panel. I can access the chat and I can say hello to all of my students in the chat. So just say hello there, and I've now said hello to all of my students. They can obviously say hello back if they want to. But there is a dedicated moderators chat. So if I've got several instructors helping me deliver this session, then we can have a private chat in the background, which is really quite nice. I can see who's attending, so I can see all of my students. And I can see the quality of their internet connection. So if any of them are struggling with their internet connection, at least I'm going to be made aware of it. And that might be another reason for me to record the session. Moving over to the Share Content tab, we've got whiteboarding options. I can share my screen. I can share my camera, which actually puts my camera on full screen. So I take over everybody's screen and I can maybe do a demonstration using that camera. I can share files out with my students, so I could bring up a diagram. And then we could use the whiteboarding tools within Collaborate to actually mark up that diagram. So it could be that we're going through a workflow and I'm going to take students through that workflow. Even though we're remote and we're online, I can very clearly mark up that diagram just like I would on a whiteboard at the front of the class. So it's quite nice that I've got the sharing files option. We can do some polling, so we can do some live questioning within the session, and we can also start some breakout groups. So if I click breakout groups, I could randomly assign my students into 5 groups, and I could allow people to move between those groups. And when I click start, everybody will go out into those individual breakout groups. And I've ended up in a group with Bill, Emma, Holly and John. So I can open up my microphone again and I can start talking to these students. Now, as the moderator, I can move around. So I might want to move into group 3 and just check on how group 3 is doing. So I'm moving myself now across to a different group so that I can moderate the sessions appropriately. And then I can either pause the breakout rooms and come back to them later, or I can just end them. So in this instance, I'm going to end the breakout rooms and everybody will come back to the main room. So I find this really helpful because it supports my group-based learning activities. And it might mean that I could split my students into their problem-based learning groups and they could actually work together on their activities in a synchronous environment. And the fact is that when I close Collaborate, we end back up onto the Learn Ultra course and all of the recordings will automatically roll back to the actual course. So my students can access those really easily and quickly, which is really helpful. And like I said, we can integrate other types of technologies such as Microsoft Teams. So within just a couple of clicks here, I can access my team meetings and I can also access my classes space. So you can very easily move between the Learn Ultra instance over to Collaborate and between and back to Teams if I wanted to. So I can actually move around all of these technologies very seamlessly without having too much of a problem. Now I'm just going to log out of the environment. The last thing I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you as a student. So I'm going to log in as Scott. Scott is the student who has just received his feedback on that particular assignment. So I'm just going to wait for Learn Ultra to log me in. Let me just open up a new Chrome tab to do that. Sorry, just seems to have stalled for a minute. I think my internet connection has taken a hit, maybe. It's always the way. Okay, my internet doesn't seem very happy at this moment in time. So I think what I'll do, I'll stop the presentation there because I'm conscious that we've been going for about 35 minutes maybe. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we will hand over to Massimo. So Massimo, the floor is yours. I hope that was helpful.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Richard. Hey, everybody. Just check. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Massimo.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So let me share my screen, and I want to show you something today. I promise I will take 5 minutes. It's at the end of the day. You're all tired. I was supposed to present for 15, but I promise 5 are enough. I just want to make sure that I reiterate a message that I heard many times today, because it's a very important message. So we are going to go through a change, and this change is not all about technology. Okay, it's about people using the technology. Okay, we know it at Blackboard. We went through it many times in many different regions. We know that there is it's a very time-consuming part of the change management, and it's a very complex task. So we don't underestimate these.
Sorry, Massimo.
Right? We don't want to underestimate.
Massimo, do you hear me?
We want to make sure that the people. Sorry.
Yes, you are breaking a bit. Can you maybe speak louder and change your mic or whatever, but we don't hear you well.
Sorry, I don't hear you. Do you confirm you hear me and you see my screen?
No, we see your screen, but when you speak, it's breaking.
You don't hear me?
We don't hear you well.
Okay. So like I take another 4 minutes to run you through the presentation.
Okay, just try to speak louder, please.
Even 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay, so we at Blackboard know that it's all about people using the technology. Okay, and we know that at the beginning you may find it's a change, so it's a journey, and you may find you somewhere here, right? At the beginning it's a shock, and then maybe some anger or fear. Then you start accepting the change, and then you commit to it. Think about yourself where you are.
Massimo, do you hear us? Melvin, are you still with us?
Sorry?
I was saying that we can't hear you well. We are seeing your screen, but we don't hear you.
You don't hear me? Do you hear me now?
Yes, now it's working.
Okay, let me speak closer to the microphone then, okay? So I was saying that you may find yourself somewhere in this diagram. We went at Blackboard through this change journey many times, and we know that at the beginning people may find themselves kind of a shock place, or then anger and fear, but then they start accepting the change and then commit to it. Now, we are here to support you and to help everyone to go to the to the fourth part of this diagram. So to make sure that you have all you need, you feel comfortable in this on this journey. Okay. The way we do it is our approach is that every institution is unique to us, and we want to talk to every key stakeholders, executive, learning technology, academic, IT, admin, end users, right? Everyone to come with a plan, right? We want to listen. We want to understand where you are. We want to understand where you want to be in 5 years. What skill set you need to have, you want to have, right? And then we want to come with a plan that we want to build together with you. Okay? We call it learning technology planning, and this is something that we do every time we start working with you. And this is the beginning, just the beginning of a stack that includes many other initiatives. For example, we have courses that you can take online. We have trainings. We call them teaching readiness modules or admin readiness modules. We have consulting hours. We want to dedicate you. We help you on your course design and development. You have courses, you may want to convert those courses, or maybe you want to build from the scratch. We have expertise, right,
Max?
on that field. Yeah?
Max, Asma says that they want to close the call now. I think they've got an urgent something.
Okay.
Yes, we unfortunately have some agenda constraints, so we need to close the call.
That's okay.
Thanks a lot for your time and for the presentation. We were supposed to have a kind of Q&A session, but to be honest, a Q&A session remotely is not the best way to have it. So what I propose is that we close the call with the Blackboard. Maybe we can have a sort of summary internally and discuss internally. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Melvin. Thanks Massimo and Richard for your time. And I'm sure each of our institutions will have the time to discuss with you and have this session with you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's bye.
Okay, so yeah, it was a tough session for after lunch, let's say, and second day. I hope that you have been able to have some insights about the tool. To summarize, it means, the purpose of this demonstration was to show you that the platform is quite flexible, can be adaptable to each of your learning and teaching strategy. It's here to allow the academics to save time and really have this, like you mentioned, Prof. Hamid, this teaching experience very smooth on the platform. Each institution implementation is specific. Then it means that you will have time to have this interaction. Specific question to the Blackboard team. Maybe allow me to do it also in French. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention. C'est vrai que c'était pas évident de faire cette session juste après le déjeuner pour le deuxième jour, une démo comme ça en remote. Mais je vous remercie pour votre attention. La session était là simplement pour vous montrer que la plateforme Blackboard permet de répondre à tout type d'activités et de tâches qu'un académique peut avoir à faire dans sa journée, que ce soit pour proposer du contenu, soumettre un assignment, que ce soit pour noter les étudiants, etc. La plateforme est là pour vous soulager, pour vous aider à être encore plus efficace dans votre journée et d'avoir le temps nécessaire pour l'interaction avec les étudiants. C'est un projet qui est collectif, mais qui va être implémenté de manière spécifique à chaque institution, puisqu'on a dit que chaque institution avait ses propres process de teaching and learning. Donc ne vous inquiétez pas, même si vous n'avez pas pu tout suivre parce que c'était en remote, il y aura des sessions spécifiquement organisées pour votre institution où vous allez pouvoir poser vos propres questions. Voilà, merci beaucoup pour le temps accordé. Désolée encore si la session n'était pas captivante pour un après-déjeuner. Voilà.
Thank Asma. Thank you. So I think that we have covered everything on the list. Thank you for the quality of presentation of different speakers. I think that it's time to closing session. So we'll start with perhaps some relevant and key takeaways and to highlight some outcomes. Then we'll give the floor to the different directors to also giving some closing speech, and we'll close it with gift exchange session. So I will ask Mr. Zahir to join me for to highlight these outcomes. So perhaps I have to highlight the fact that the first meeting with Zahir was many months ago, and the first meeting we asked many questions about the goal of this summit and how we can put all these universities and institutions together to exchange and to share their experience. The goal was so high, and I think that based on all this presentation, many actions can be provided and put it, and we will give you the floor after that if you have something to add, something to highlight and to propose. So Zahir, the floor is yours for the highlighting this aspect.
Thank you, Manel. Is everyone still awake? Okay. I know Prof. Chedley is definitely awake, and I must share with you, before I got here, I had a very different understanding and interpretation of Professor, because I only engaged with him online. And from yesterday, he's my best friend now. So, but now I know he's my partner, and I can network with him and I can engage with him, and we can connect. So I think, colleagues, the goal is reached. The goal is reached, yes. I think the first big takeaway for me, colleagues, is that we connected as human beings today. For the last 3 or 4 years, we were engaging online, virtually, and I would have never known about Professor Chedley, certainly some of his skills, and certainly would not have met you. So I think that's the first big win. We connected as human beings because we are made up of human beings in this network. The second thing is, I think we had a fantastic opportunity to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's important, because we're not here to just showcase good. We're here to be real with each other, identify the problems as well as what we do well. So I think we have a better appreciation of each other and the differences amongst us. Because I personally believe we must cherish the differences and our uniqueness, but continue to remain galvanized, which means united in our intention as the Honoris United Universities platform. So whilst we work together and collaborate, we are still unique in our own region, to our own students, to our own local populations, but united in our intention. And lastly, I really, really hope that we do not wait for the next academic summit, all right? We've got to get the networking. Yes. So let's not wait for Cape Town, but hopefully we do meet next in Cape Town, right? We will hopefully meet in Cape Town, but can we please connect? There's lovely, fantastic ideas that have come up. There's opportunities for us to improve ourselves by working more closely together. So not chalk and talk. Let's connect and let's take our ideas forward. And thank you to every one of you that have made this a success from behind the scenes. The sport committee, you've been excellent. I know it's been very tough. The language barrier is not easy, but the 2 days has been because of your effort. And to the local host institutions, we could have not asked for any better. You've exceeded our expectations. Thank you very much. Barrier is not easy, but the 2 days has been because of your effort. And to the local host institutions, we could have not asked for any better. You've exceeded our expectations. Thank you very much.
We want to show to TICAD 8 Japanese came here and want to invite Africa. Yeah. We have to show to Japanese that we are strongest. North Africa, South Africa, and all Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if we can rapidly run through any other takeaways or any comments. So if you
that actually